Hello and welcome to the Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. And ahead of Gameweek 23, there's still lots to consider around Liverpool, and Man City options are not making it easy. My name is Joe.
I'm Sam.
And my name is Lee.
Welcome, Sam and Lee, as we look ahead to Gameweek 23 and beyond. Now, we were due to have former number one Simon March on, but unfortunately his broadband provider has not helped us out here. So we've gone for the next best thing, which is Lee, who hasn't won it before, but he's aiming to. And he's kindly stepped in to join Sam and I. Now, you're in different rooms. We were talking earlier on air. Those that remember the John Peel sessions for the classic radio DJ, he was allowed to broadcast in his home for the last couple of years of his show, and he would often have bands on for the fabled John Peel sessions spread around the house, and that's exactly what's happening here. So some members of Blur were in the toilet, some in the kitchen, blah blah. So you are in the same house but in different rooms using different mics and everything like that. So just thought I'd explain.
Yeah, I can confirm neither of us is in the toilet. Yes.
Okay. Neither are in the toilet. You are in rooms, but not the toilet. And but that's the way we're doing it. So it's a sort of in tribute to John Peel. Sam, what's coming up in the show?
Okay, so we are going to consider whether the Vardy party is finally over. We're going to think about whether Southampton are now the go-to place for our cheap assets. We're going to be looking at Wolves and Villa and thinking about what we do with their assets now. It's not looking so great for them anymore. Also thinking in about the latest talking points around the Liverpool double. That seems to change every single week. So we're going to have a think about where are we going now? Are we still thinking about the middle of the defence, or is Firmino now an option? And of course, in order to do that, what sacrifices we need to make to our FPL teams, who's going to go to make way for those players. There's going to be a differential from Joe this week, thinking about clean sheets, the rough with the smooth, our Game Week 23 plans, and looking back at how we got on in Game Week 22.
Yeah, well, let's start with that bit. Game Week 22. It's been a good week for all of us. Another rare moment in the Scoutcast. I think it's only happened about once before, where we all do well. So green arrows all round. Lee, you got the highest, 72 points, and you've just sneaked ahead of me in the rankings by a few points, I noticed, up to 41k. What went right?
It's just a continuation of what happened over Christmas, Joe, to be honest with you. I had a pretty good Christmas, a time of the year, actually, which for me, normally is not so great. I'm a patient manager. I like to listen to the podcasts, watch the Scoutcast, etc., make my mind up on Friday. And Christmas is kind of like, wham, bam, every 3 or 4 days. But actually worked out all right for me this year. So Game Week 22 went pretty well. Yeah, 72. Went a little bit against the grain without captain Vardy. I was absolutely considering that. But the calf complaint put me off a little bit. And the fact that I didn't fancy Saints to get battered 9-0 again. And I thought they'd put in a bit of a performance meant that I went KDB captain, which I was clearly happy about. The defence did well. My transfer in was Holgate. Now, I've seen some quotes just this week about the fact that Holgate might be due at rest. I think Ancelotti might be bringing the likes of Mina back in. So one to watch there if you're a Holgate owner. But 7 points, very welcome last week. Rashford with the 12, of course, as well. If he'd have held on for a couple more minutes, would have been 14. But we won't moan at all about the 12. So, yeah, it's just a kind of one of those weeks where the spread of points was pretty good. It was a pretty good all-round 11 performance. And actually, were it not for Grealish bottling the Aston Villa penalty and giving it to El Ghazi, might even have had a cheeky goal from Grealish as well. So all-round, a good game week. Very happy with 72, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good spread. It's always nice, isn't it, when you get a whole bunch of players all scoring, chipping in there, Abraham and Lundstrom and so and so, with those nice 6 points and lots of them. Sam, 69 points. Everyone scored in your team, apart from one lone player. Yes, one.
Yeah, apart from Delhi, who let me down. I think Delhi was almost my transfer out this week or last week, and he likely will be my make way for Liverpool. But he stayed this week, kind of got a stay of execution because I couldn't quite get where I needed to be in terms of money in the bank by making that transfer and not spending some points. So he stayed. I didn't expect much out of him, to be honest, but it was fine. I was quite happy to just hold him for that Liverpool game. The rest of them, on the other hand, were all excellent. Don't often, as you say, get a game week where every single person returns something at least. Captain's armband was on Vardy. I'll be honest, it was a bit of a shield pick, to be honest. I was very concerned that so many people around me in that kind of top 10k bracket were all looking at captaining in Vardy, and I felt like if I hadn't done that and he'd have fired, it would have hit me harder.
Tough at the top, Sam, isn't it? Tough at the top.
It is, yeah. It is definitely. But I think there is an element of kind of just being a bit protective, and I thought Vardy was a good captain for this week. It was fine, and it was a nice 3k green arrow up to 6k. So yeah, it's all kind of going well at the minute.
Well, yeah, can't complain with that. So I'm just below with 65 points this week. I went for KDB over Vardy. We mentioned that. Myself and Neil did a captain video early last week, of which we were looking at the Southampton defence, and we were a bit worried about Vardy there, not because of Vardy, but just we thought Southampton would make it tricky for them. And so it transpired, but also with Man City, it was more just how awful Villa were that we just went for Man City. Now, obviously, some people, and we're going to come to this in rough with the smooth, they really went to town on City, and they did ever so well out of that. And there's something to be said for targeting those whipping boys and highlighting them. Less so about the players that you've got. Just literally anyone can score against Villa. Give them a go. So I've noted the eagle-eye people there will notice I've got Dendoncker on my bench. So unfortunately, I didn't go Dendoncker deep with the subs. There was no subs. So why couldn't some of my lads get rotated like they did over Christmas now? But yeah, Dendoncker, he's he's often playing as centre back for Wolves. He's out of position, 4.4 mid. He's never really going to get a look in my team. So I've just got to accept that he's going to score 2 or 3 goals a season, and I'm not going to get them. But that's the way it is. It wasn't one of those things where I think, I wish I played Dendoncker. Dendoncker, he's almost in my team. Yeah, he's just never going to get a look in. So
definition of bench fodder, isn't Dendoncker?
So
the absolute definition.
He is totally, and so it's a rough in the way, so which is a neat way of moving on to the rough with the smooth. Now, it's not Dendoncker who grabs the headlines for most people's rough with the smooth. It's basically Man City, and in particularly Aguero. So there's a couple of roughs I'll mention. Peter Ouch indeed with this one. He transferred out Grealish and, drum roll, who do you reckon he transferred out? Ooh... That's right.
A big hitting City player, Mahrez or something.
Aguero.
Even worse than Mahrez. Yeah, nice.
So he got rid of Grealish and Aguero for Calvert-Lewin and Salah. So I don't know, possibly sensible.
That's long term
moves.
Though, isn't it?
Yeah, he's well set for the double.
Sensible long-term moves, but just the wrong week to do it.
Yeah.
Thiga, Kane to, drum roll. Who did he do it to? Who did he transfer Kane out to? Was it Aguero? No, it wasn't Aguero. It was Aubameyang for his red card.
Oh, jeez.
So there's a few smooths. As was documented on our Meet the Manager video, later Riser was talking about high impact decisions, and his high impact decision was to transfer out Vardy for Aguero and captain Aguero. And boy, did that pay off.
That was a lovely move. So I loved that move.
He got 93 points, and he's in the top 4. He's in the top 4K or so.
Dreamland
there. He's quite familiar with the top 10K, so I don't.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be removed from there for some time. Atletico Nashabo wildcarded with Aguero as his captain, so he got him in from the wildcard. Halved his rank from just under 500,000 to 230k, so moving very much in the right direction.
Very nice.
FPL Partridge, our good friend in the FPL community on Twitter, a very amusing poster. Please do follow him if you can, because he livens up my week with his excellent posts. But he wildcarded and he tripled up on Man City midfielders David Silva, Mahrez and KDB, who he captained. So not a bad move there. And finally, FPL Belgian, 81 points. He sold Salah and Sionchu, so long term, maybe.
Wow.
But for Mahrez, who he captained, and Robertson, 81 points, up to 172k in the world. So massive swings there for those that were willing to take a punt on some City assets. Let's move on. We're talking about, there's a particular player we'll talk about. Now, I know you've probably got some views on this. It's young Jamie Vardy. And Matt asks about Jamie Vardy. Is the Vardy party over? An FPL dude.
Come
Can you imagine this? This is what's happening now in the community out there. FPL dude asks, is it time to remove Vardy? There are plenty of premium replacements like Jesus, Firmino, who has a double, of course, and of course Aguero, who's turned around many people's season for those with more money. So, let's go to you first, Lee, because you were saying, Vardy, it's time to sell him?
No. It's all that's happened was there's just two parties, right? The first party was so hardcore, people raved so hard, it just needed a little break. Everybody pulled their calf muscles doing it, and we had to have a little rest.
And a baby.
He's going to be back. And we all had a baby. Yeah.
That's one hell of a party.
It's a hell of a party. But it's absolutely not over. I mean, come on, what do you want? He had a couple of weeks off because of the baby. He had a bit of a calf thing. Then he goes up against Southampton, of course, as you guys well documented with David. You know, the Saints' defence and no pushovers right now. That was a difficult game, given what happened in the reverse of that fixture at St Mary's. I mean, what more motivation do you need for Southampton to turn up and actually put in a decent performance? And do you know what? He didn't blank. He got just an assist, but that's, still a nice 5 or 6 pointer, wasn't it? I think so. No, I don't think it's over at all. I fully expect Leicester to want to obviously get Champions League football, consolidate that position in the top 4, if not top 3. So no, I've got him. I'll be keeping him, and very happy to do so, I think.
Yeah, okay, Sam, the Vardy party, is it over?
I mean, you can't take him out ahead of a trip to Burnley, can you? I mean, Burnley are...
No, I know.
They are leaking goals left, right and centre. I think, we all have very short-term memories when it comes to these players. Like, if we look a bit more long-term, as Lee was just saying, he has been outstanding for the majority of this season. And then a couple of game weeks not playing, and suddenly he is an easy scapegoat, I think, for shifting so that you can get the Liverpool players. So I think it's less to do with Vardy himself, this movement away from Vardy, and more to do with the fact that people are just looking for an excuse to get rid of somebody that allows them to bring in a Liverpool asset. But for me, losing Vardy ahead of the Burnley game just feels like FPL suicide. Like, he could go on an absolute riot there, and I think he probably will.
And suicide's a good word, because his ownership is so high as well. If you do sell it, you're kind of setting yourself up for a red arrow, aren't you?
Okay, well, I'm going to come in with a counter argument here. Okay.
Go on, Joe. Go on. Are you all partied out? You had enough?
Late Riser got rid of the Vardy party, and he got moved up to the top 5k from about 20k mark. So it is a risk. It's a massive risk. That's an understatement. Selling him is a massive risk because of the ownership. But I think that is what fantasy football, fantasy Premier League is all about. It is about when those high owned players start to fall away. It's about hopping off them and getting on those differentials, and that's how you move up the rankings, ideally. But there is a but here. I do agree now is perhaps not the right time to sell Vardy. And that is because I'm looking at the opponent's next 4. So Burnley at Turf Moor. So this is last 4 matches. Burnley have conceded 8 with no clean sheets. And the expected goals conceded is about 8 too. So they're there for the taking. We talked about on the captaincy video earlier this week with David. If you're looking for a whipping boy, it's basically Burnley at the moment as well. So
it is, yeah.
Vardy, he's captainable this week. He's certainly not ditchable. But when Liverpool, we'll talk about Liverpool plans coming up. I think it is a risk worth taking, possibly. I think it is a risk worth taking. I think sacrifices are going to have to be made, and we're going to talk about them. And if you're looking at a player to go who's got a single game week fixture, having said that, West Ham at home, they've conceded 5, and they should have conceded over 7 for their last 4 at home. And Chelsea at home, they conceded 4, just 1 clean sheet over their last 4. So, and Wolves away, conceded 6 and no clean sheets. So there is definitely an argument to say that long term, or certainly in the medium term, Vardy will get points there. But I think if you're looking at a triple captaining and getting in a Liverpool midfielder and triple captaining them, I think that could outweigh what Vardy might get in a single game week. But I do think with Vardy, if you're going to get rid of him, have a think about a Vardy re-entry plan of getting him back in. I totally agree. So if you're going to get rid of him, and a lot of people have a lot of money tied up in him as well, I personally don't worry too much about that, but I would worry about doing without him for a number of fixtures. I could do without him for that Liverpool double game week. So that's my thoughts on it. I'm not as gung-ho on keeping him. I do think he's ditchable, but I do think you have to accept the risk of doing that. And with risk could come reward, or as you said, complete failure.
I just think if you do it, not only have you got to spend a transfer getting him back in if you want him, but obviously you're going to lose a load of team value by doing that as well. So I just think that the downsides of doing it just outweigh the upsides. Now, it's a Liverpool double, I get that, and the doubles don't come around that often, less so even for best team in the league.
There we go.
Get that one in there. So I agree with you that sacrifices have probably got to be made. If you want Salah and Mane, clearly it's going to be very difficult to have Salah, Mane, KDB, Vardy, possibly Rashford as well if you want him, and Trent or Robbo at the back. It's a lot of money, and you've probably got to make a sacrifice somewhere. But with those fixtures, with the team value you'll lose, and with the fact you probably want him back as well at some stage, I think you could probably make a sacrifice somewhere else.
I think so too. Yeah, it's a points. Not for me, it's points, not pounds. I don't really care about losing value on him. If I want him back that desperately, I'll get him. But I do worry about losing those points and those poor defences he's got coming up, and especially West Ham as well. That looks, if Fabianski's out, well, whoever. I mean, us three could get kitted up and start scoring against West Ham. Basically.
And the thing is, he'll be highly captained as well, Vardy. So it's not just the points that you lose on him. It'll be the fact that, obviously probably not in 24, because most people will captain a Liverpool player in 24, but in the other fixtures around, if you've taken him out, there's a good chance that he'll be highly captained in Gameweek 23 versus Burnley. And if you don't own him at all and he scores 1, 2, 3, however many goals he's going to get against Burnley, that is going to massively cost you in rank. And that's my fear with losing Vardy, is that the others might perform, but just not having him could massively cost you.
And,
what about your new dad theory, though, Sam? I love your new dad theory about when they have a baby, they have lack of sleep and they can't concentrate. And so Vardy, no shots. Was it no shots or no shots on target? But whatever it was, the stat is not that flattering for him in the previous game week. So bit of new dad theory here potentially creeping in.
Nah, he's an old dad, isn't he? He's got previous kids. He's used to no sleep.
He's a multi-millionaire who lives in a cryogenic tank.
True.
He does it like the baby's crying, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm in my cryogenic tank. So
he puts the baby in there.
I do want to see him do the baby thing, but this baby's going to be about 10 years old by the time he does that at this rate. One thing I do think it's important that people look at with Vardy though is, yes, he did get 0 shots away against Southampton. Was that down to Southampton? Was that Vardy coming back from injury? Was it to do with his baby? But I think against Burnley, so if he is not scoring against Burnley, and Burnley are whipping boy status currently, and they're for the taking, then I think a lot of people, when they're eyeing up Mane and Salah, are thinking, who should go? Will it be the guy?
That's interesting.
So basically, Vardy this weekend is playing his way into our affections or out of our affections, and so on the Scoutcast, we do like to kind of think slightly a week ahead, and this is. Basically, we're going to get a lot of questions about Vardy if he hasn't scored anything, and will it be time to ditch him? But we're already slightly ahead of the curve, so hopefully he'll do well. Let's move on to some teams people are talking about. Wolves and Villa. I've got sell, exclamation mark, and I've got Saints and Watford, buy, exclamation mark. So yeah, Lee, what's all that about? What's the community been asking?
Yeah, so we're going to have a look at some of the teams and some of the fixtures coming up. And I think we've seen a couple of teams really come to the fore in terms of ones we absolutely want to get on, like, as you mentioned, Saints and Watford in particular. I mean, there's new manager bounce, and then there's new manager bounce. I mean, goodness me, Pearson's doing such a good job. And then there's Wolves and Villa, which are teams that you'd absolutely want to get rid of right now. And some of us are pretty invested in Traore, Jimenez, Grealish and players like that. So we had something from Rishi on Wolves saying, should we sell Wolves and Villa assets like Traore and Grealish, given the fixture turn for them and the poor form? And should we instead be investing in the Saints, who have good form, good fixtures coming up, etc., etc.? We had also a comment from Mohammed saying Watford's fixtures are mixed, but their form is great. So are we a bit too late to Watford, or are they still viable? Which players are we going to get, and which players are we going to target if we're not too late to get on Watford, which I don't think we are. I think they're primed for investment. So Joe, maybe I'll come to you.
Okay.
Which of the players from Villa and Wolves have you got in your team that you might want to ditch? And are you looking at any Saints or Watford players in particular?
Yes, and yes to all of those, all of the above. Tick, tick, tick. I like Southampton, obviously. They are in good form defensively and attackingly, and it comes at a good time because Wolves and Villa aren't. So it's an easy swap. I've already tapped in to their attacking potential. So Ings in, Jimenez out. That's simple. I've freed up some money there to put in my Liverpool double up in midfield bank for next week, but more on that later. But I think it's a sensible move to make. We were talking on the Scoutcast last time about Danny Ings, and I basically was thinking I can't fit him in. I'd love to have Danny Ings in my squad, but I've got Jimenez, I've got Rashford, I've got Vardy. One of them's got to make way. And I was looking at the stats, I was looking at the eye tests, I was looking at the performances, and Danny Ings had one of his best games this season, despite only getting 5 points. I was massively lucky as a non-owner that he only got 5 points.
100%. Yeah,
Jimenez
100%.
could chip away with the odd assist or two, but Ings, he's looking, with the fixtures at good, he's looking goal or two. It's not a question of will he score. It's a bit like Jamie Vardy. It's how many will he score. And I think even though Ings hasn't been known for his double-digit returns so far, I think it's coming. Just looking at his form. It was something Az said actually last Scoutcast that really stuck with me during the week. It stuck with me while I was watching Match of the Day highlights of Ings. Was just saying that he just simply looks like the best striker at the moment in the league. Just looks like an incredible. He's just on it. He's just on his game, and that's what you want from a striker. Fixtures obviously appeal. Watford, I do like them, and I've had Foster for a few weeks now, so I'm an early Watford adopter. Okay. Obviously Sarr, Decore, Deeney, they all appeal too. Not sure at the moment. I've got other issues to think about regarding Liverpool. Wolves, I'm just not happy with their form or their fixtures. They just look in dire need of something. New recruits, slight change of system. I don't know what it is. They just need something. Yeah. Villa are just in free fall, I think. They're going to get Pepe Reina, but they need a big guy up top. They don't need a big guy at the back anymore. Grealish may have one more week in my team, but he's not long for this world. So expected goals. Just want to finish off. Expected goals last four. 5th best is Watford. 7th best and above Leicester is Southampton. Wolves 9th best, so mid-table, not as bad. 4th worst is Villa. Only Newcastle, Norwich and Bournemouth are less attacking in terms of expected goals last 4. So a roundabout way of saying yes all the questions.
And what do you think then, Sam? Because a lot of people on Twitter are talking about they've got Jimenez, they've got Traore from Wolves, and coming out up to these difficult Newcastle away difficult. Yeah, I suppose it is a tricky fixture, and then after that the Wolves fixtures are even more difficult. So given that, you've got neither of those, right? You've got Moutinho, who actually has been ticking over the points for you quite nicely and delivering quite a bit of value. So you've not got Jimenez or Traore, but you have got Moutinho. So is a transfer out on the cards for Moutinho to someone from Saints or Watford? Or are you quite happy sticking with the Wolves, Matt?
Well, I've had Danny Ings now for like 10 weeks or something ridiculous through all of his amazing stuff. So I'm less worried about getting on the Southampton bandwagon because I feel like I'm all about Danny Ings. In terms of Moutinho, he, like you say, he is bucking the trend really. He's got 6 and 6 in the last couple of weeks. But prior to that, obviously, they played Liverpool, Manchester City, and then before that, he got points against Norwich. So in the 5 games, 3 of them that you would expect Wolves to have got some points in, he did. So he seems to be kind of, for me anyway, I'm quite happy to have him because he's the sort of player that, like Joe was saying earlier about Dendoncker, I'm happy to bench him. I don't feel the need to, the way my team is structured, it can easily become bench fodder should I need him to. But he also, the games that come up that I want Wolves, I expect Wolves to do something in. I feel like I can play him and he'll return. So for me, I'm going to keep him. I am looking at Watford though. I do think that now is the right time to join the Watford party.
Who are you looking at in particular?
So there's a few of them, and I think the problem is that a lot of the focus at the moment, rightly, is on bringing on Liverpool assets, and then it kind of takes a back seat using your transfers for somebody else. Whereas at the moment, I'm kind of finding myself thinking, or maybe actually I should use some of my transfers to bring in somebody like Sarr or even Deeney. I've been kind of toying with the idea of Deeney for a couple of weeks now. I just think Watford are on great form. The fixtures look good. All right, they've got Spurs this weekend, but those guys can score past
nice
Spurs.
Fixture.
Yeah, he can easily score against them. So I think there's some good options. I think Foster is a great option. I know Joe was saying he's got him. I think he's a great option in terms of keepers for the next few weeks.
What about Doucouré in number 10? Because I appreciate it might be a pretty obvious thing to bring up at this stage, given he got the goal. Maybe got goal and an assist, I think, at the weekend. But in that number 10 spot, I think he's been returning sort of at least an assist or a goal in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. So I think we've been massively sleeping on him. I know he's been playing a bit through the pain barrier. I noticed in the post-match with Deeney, I think Sky were interviewing him, and Deeney was saying that, this guy's putting in a shift. He's on painkillers and playing through the pain barrier, etc. So maybe we need to, we've got to maybe look out for potential injury there. But he and Ismaila Sarr are two pretty good options at the same sort of price. If you were going to pick one of those two, where would you go?
Well, there's quite a big difference actually in their price. So Doucouré is only 5.6. So in terms of value,
Sarr's actually a bit more expensive, isn't he? You're right.
Yeah. So and Doucouré has got 6, 9, and 14 in his last 3 game weeks. Is quite substantially cheaper. Obviously, the Watford FA Cup fixture has been called off this evening, postponed. So that means they've got a little bit more recovery time for the likes of Doucouré and his problematic niggle that nearly kept him out last week. But I just think that Pearson has developed that team really nicely. Now, there are lots of good assets at Watford, and I think it's all going to depend on budgets as to which way you go. If money was no object, I'd still think I'd go Sarr. Just fancy him to go on a bit of a run. But Doucouré, if the budgets enable you to just get to him at 5.6, then I think he's a great option.
I think the return of Deeney in that side has really transformed them. I think Pearson's obviously made a difference and he's got them defensively more astute, but they're just working harder. They're working for each other. And I think that's a very Deeney attitude that's coming across there. I think his leadership and the way that he, I get the feeling with Doucouré, right? If under the previous manager and the previous setup, if he'd have said, I've got a bit of a niggle and I can't play, then they'd have said, all right, well, you sit it out. Whereas under Pearson and Deeney, you get the feeling Pearson in particular would have just gone, take some painkillers, lad, and get on there. We need you. Do you know what I mean? We need you. And that's what he's doing. And Deeney's kind of leading him when he's out there on the pitch. And also think that's having an impact on Sarr and Delafeu, the younger players in the side. Having that leadership up top with Deeney is making a massive, massive difference. So no, absolutely Watford, ones to watch, I think, ones to watch. Joe, you were saying about Grealish in particular from Villa. One more week for you.
Yeah, I think so. He's got to be.
Who might you swap him for?
We'll come to that in my Liverpool plan. I can't advocate whoever I'll get in for him because that's how deep I've got to go into.
And is it? Do you think it's a challenge with? So you thinking of ditching Grealish for Grealish or Grealish because of Villa?
It's because of Villa. Grealish is great.
It is, isn't it?
He fights for the cause there. He is by miles their best player. He is England's international quality at the moment. But his team is just awful. And they haven't got a striker. And I don't know what they were fielding last time when they were playing City, but it just wasn't working. No. And I think that's the problem they've got in terms of their manager. It's not like they've got Hassan Hutel or someone like that who can turn something around. They've got a manager, and I don't know whether he can turn it around. So I just have a lack of faith everywhere amongst them. I just want to mention about Southampton. So I've spoken about Ings a lot, but it's their defence as well. I think very interesting, particularly the likes of McCarthy in goal, Jack Stevens in defence. In terms of defence, get this stats here. Here's a stat. So the best defence in terms of expected goals conceded last 4 matches. In at number one is Liverpool. They have the best defence, as you would imagine. 4 clean sheets in that. They were expected goals conceded was 2.5. In fact, conceded none. But second, only just behind them is Southampton. So they're the second best defence currently. Last 4 matches, just 2 goals conceded, and they were expected to concede about 2. So get in Southampton. Now is the time to get a Southampton defender, definitely. They're looking great.
And where would you go, Joe, if you were going to go there? Would you pay a bit more for the likes of Cedric Suarez or the attackers, or would you go cheapy?
Well, I've got a range of options there. It's possible, even though I do love Ben Foster. it's possible if I need 500,000, I would do him to McCarthy and free up some money there. I do think the likes of Jack Stevens is good in defence. So they're the two ones. I think Bednarak's like weirdly priced, so I'm not so keen on that. But
true.
It's more Stevens and McCarthy just somewhere. I just think you're going to get some clean sheets, and I think you're going to get bonus. And Stevens has a goal in him as well. I just think they're really good assets, really low owned. They're good for wherever you are in the rankings, but particularly say, for example, say Sam's in the top 10,000, you're in the top 50,000. Around that price range is not a lot of people are going to be going into Southampton assets, especially those who are say the 500,000 mark as well. They're not going to go near Southampton assets. There's going to be ghost ships you're fighting against there. So hop on with your live team and get Southampton there. But yeah, I'm just looking at it. I just saw a surprising stat really. Liverpool best defence, that's not surprising. Southampton second best? That is surprising.
Yeah, they've massively upped their game since the 9-0. I don't know what it was about that game. Maybe it was a bit of a watershed moment for them as a squad and as a team. I think they sort of woke up the next morning, looked at each other on the training pitch and went, goodness me, that's not happening again. You know, that was flipping awful, and we owe the fans something a bit better than that. Because since then, like you say, the stats attack-wise have been great, largely thanks to Danny Ings, but defensively been absolutely brilliant. And if any of you guys are watching that haven't read David's article on Fantasy Football Scout website yet, check that out, because David's done all the analysis, done all the hard work for you in terms of who you need to pick. So that's a really great article.
Obviously, we need these cheapies like this, and it's great that we've got these teams with these cheapies. We need them because we have a talking point, a coming interview, and it's going to be about these lads, Liverpool. Double game week. We've got to know our latest is really who makes way. Do we go Salah, Mane? Do we just give up those dreams? KDB, Vardy, Rashford, Ings even. Who do we get rid of? I don't know. Sam, what have the community been saying?
Yeah, so obviously it is the big talking point of the community right now is how are you trebling up? It's not are we, it's how are we trebling up on Liverpool? And I think, there's been so much talk, and for many weeks the talk was all just about, are we doing the defensive double up with Trent and Robbo? Are we doing the midfield double up with Salah and Mane? Well, suddenly we've got this whole Firmino element that's come into play with his ridiculous away form. So we've had lots of kind of questions from the community about which way to go, who's going to be the make-ways in your team. And it's interesting, the conversation's a bit like we were talking about with Vardy earlier. It's interesting to look at who the community are talking about getting rid of, because these are often people that haven't actually done anything wrong. So we had a question from Fancy Prem Scout about Rashford. Rashford putting in a fine performance against Norwich. Is it time? Do we actually need to keep him, or should we be getting rid of him to make way for our Liverpool assets? Question about, is it better value to get Firmino in instead of the midfield, particularly if you look at his away form? Lots of kind of questions about that. One in particular from Farmer Fat, who said, is it worth ripping up your team to fit in Mane and Salah for the double if it means you've got to get rid of the likes of KDB, Vardy, Rashford? So Lee, as the resident Liverpool expert amongst us, I'll come to you. What do you think? Shall we rip up our teams to bring in the likes of Mane or Salah, or is there a better alternative now, raising his head and his nice shiny white teeth up top?
Those teeth are shiny, there's no doubt about it. One of the phrases that I want to pick up from what Joe said earlier about sacrifice, that's what it's kind of coming down to for me. I've got to think about who I want to sacrifice in my team. And the reason I'm thinking about sacrifice is because I don't have Mane right now. And going into that double game week without Sadio Mane frightens the life out of me. So I'm having a pretty good season. I'm up in 40-something K, very happy to be there. Not having Mane in the double game week could ruin my season. And I don't think, maybe I'm being a bit melodramatic, I don't know, maybe there's some FPL melodrama there, but he's something like 40% owned in the game. Most of that 40% are going to captain him in double game week 24. A decent portion of those managers, I think, will play the triple captainship as well. I think general consensus and feeling on Twitter and within the community is that it's a pretty good week to play a triple captainship if you still have it. So combine all those three things together, and Mane's effective ownership up in the top sort of 50k where I am, is going to be pretty enormous. And if I have him, then the impact is kind of lessened. If I captain him, then the impact is obviously I'll be doing all right out of that. And if I triple captain him, I'll be doing very well. If I don't have him at all, it's just going to impact my rank so much that it's going to really ruin my weekend and possibly my season. So my current feeling is that I do want Salah and Mane in my team. And I've got Trent anyway. Trent is going up. Trent is absolutely locked. I think out of all of them, we can discuss whatever you want, whoever you want, but I think Trent has to be there. Salah and Mane are the ones that I'm currently going for. Now, you could make a case for any of the others, actually. So Firmino, you've already rolled out the stats about how good he is away from home. And I do now think you can say that Bobby Firmino is a big goal getter, right? He's a big goal and a big game getter, if you know what I mean. So he's coming up with these really big and important goals. He's scoring the first goal in games as well, so he's getting us off the mark. And I noticed actually there was a bit of communication, a bit of rhetoric between him and Klopp after the game, where Klopp was going to go and give him a hug and say, well done for your performance. And Firmino, before Klopp had even hugged him, said words to the effect of, I should have scored more, boss. I know I should have scored more goals. And Klopp kind of went, well, that's not what I was going to say to you, but, yeah, maybe.
What a massive suck-up Firmino is.
Yeah,
sorry, boss, I'm not really, really excellent, just slightly excellent.
But the point of saying that, the point of bringing that up on the Scoutcast is that goals are on his mind, right? He must be looking either side of him and thinking, right, Salah's getting PFA Player of the Year and Mane's winning African Player of the Year. What am I winning, right? I want to get some goals as well. 7 goals in the season already. Maybe that's a bit low for Liverpool number 9. Maybe he wants a bit more. So, yeah.
But then they've only come away from home, right? So that's 7 goals in far less games than, some of the others.
Yeah, I don't know what we can attribute that to. I don't know if we're maybe reading a bit too much into that. Maybe it's the way that teams set up against Liverpool away from home. Maybe teams feel like they need to come at us a bit more when we're away from home, and maybe they push up a bit, and maybe Firmino finds a bit of space in between that. I genuinely can't put my finger on what that's all about. But I do think he's a really nice pick. And I think if you are going to go either Sadio Mane or Salah with Firmino as a complement, it requires a bit less of the sacrifice. So you don't have to quite rip up your team in quite the same way. So, but I do think the 2 attack and the 1 defender is the way to go. Although, if people want to go Trent and Robbo as well, I definitely can see that too. Joe, what's your thoughts on this? Where do you stand?
Well, my key word is flexibility. So, and I want to be as flexible as I can right up until Gameweek 24. So at the moment, the way I stand at the moment, I have 1 free left. I've got 2 frees going to this week. I've spent 1 already, Jimenez doings, and I've got another 1. So the aim is really to go into Gameweek 24 with 2 frees. So I've got maximum flexibility there. I could take a hit and still make 3 changes. So it's sort of mini wild card. And I've got 1.5 in the bank at the moment. So I've got to find, Ali is definitely going to go. I need to find another 2.5 million or so from somewhere else, whether it's 1 or 2 players. So that's what I'm looking at, really. So I've broken it down to that. I want to get Mane. I don't have him. I have Salah and TAA. I'm looking at this double game week in terms of you're looking at the massive ownership and the ability to score. Mane has that. If I had Mane and not Salah, then I would be much more inclined to take a risk on Firmino. Or another defender, because I think Salah's ownership, even though I think Salah at the moment is the more effective FPL asset, in terms of he just looks, he's near to back to his best. I think they're both good options there, but I just think in terms of playing the game, you have to have Mane. I intend to triple captain him as well. A lot of people above me in the rankings, so I'm about the 60k mark. A lot of them will have already spent their triple captaincy chip. It probably went well because they're doing so well. There's a lot of people in the top 10k will not have used their triple captaincy chip so far, and they're in a very good position. But there's some that probably have, and that's why they're there, because they've got those extra points from somewhere. So for me, get Mane, I've got to sacrifice something. And that's what this is about, really. So last week we talked about which 3 to get, and this week is which 3 to get plus who do we get rid of. One of Vardy, KDB or Rashford or even Ings would need to go. But then I had a moment of clarity. Sometimes, I don't know, when you're on the train or bus or walking the dog, whatever, you just suddenly think, hang on a minute, there's a plan B I hadn't even thought of. And I think I'm going to
It's
go.
not Gini Wijnaldum, is it, or something crazy?
No, I'm going to go for this. No, I'm not going to go for Wijnaldum. That's like plan.
That would be rogue.
That's plan Z. But one I favour, and I think it means for me it's spending -4, and it means I get to keep all of those players that I listed who I want. I want them all. I don't want to get rid of KDB and Vardy. And it's Ali and Grealish and a defender to Mane. Use the triple captaincy chip on him. Get to play all those other guys. Plus, I get an ultra cheap mid in. And basically go 4-3-3. Ultra cheap mid. I've already got loads of cheap defenders, so another one won't harm. And go 4-3-3 for a while.
How cheap is cheap, Joe?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Choudhury deep here. That's how.
Wow.
And I'm quite willing to do that. For
I
a
was
little
thinking
while.
Fleck or Cantwell, but
Well,
you're
I
going
could
Choudhury.
I could go Choudhury deep. That's how far I'm willing to go. But I think if I'm getting in Mane and triple captaining him, surely. So the point to that move is that Mane triple captain is going to far outweigh whatever else I get in. And going 4-3-3, there's lots of good, decent. We just mentioned all the Southampton options as well. There's loads of good cheap defenders at the moment. Danny Ings. So I bought him in for whatever 6.7, 6.8, whatever he is now. And he was like 6 million at some point. People got him in then. And so they're going, oh, I'm not getting you in now. He costs too much money. He doesn't cost too much money. He's playing like an £11 million striker.
Yeah,
so if I'm getting him in,
Totally.
so I'm saving money there. I'm saving money all over the shop with all the value at the moment. And this is the plan B I'm thinking of. But I'm being flexible. Say KDB gets injured, Vardy gets injured, something like that. Then perhaps that's a move that I could do another one. But for the moment, I think it's not a bad backup really. And people go, oh, you're getting Choudhury in, oh, he's rubbish. I'm not going to play him. He's going to be behind. He's going to be so far back on my bench. Then Donker's going to be looking at him, waving at him, saying hi down there.
Then Donker's got promoted.
Yeah, then Donker's going to be way up there first, maybe even
You've got
second.
the worst bench ever, Joe. That's a terrible bench.
That would be. But then Donker, little goals here and there. No, it would be a bad. But everyone's got bad benches at the moment, and we're talking about sacrifices. Back to this. Back on point again. Talking about sacrifices. Some people get rid of Vardy. Some people KDB. My sacrifice, I get rid of Grealish for Choudhury. Is that really a bad sacrifice? Not too bad at the moment.
Yeah, it's one you can live with, isn't it? Yeah. And what about you, Sam? You think, where are you? Because you're on Salah and Trent, same as me, right? Does Mane scare you as much as it scares me?
It scares me less every. So this is. I think I'm very much in your camp. Not so much with the Choudhury thing, but I'm in Joe's camp in terms of the flexibility.
You're not crazy.
I kind of decided that I want to leave it as late as possible before I make any decisions about my Liverpool asset. So basically what I'm doing is squirreling money away into my bank so that I can make the decision last minute as to whether I'm going to go with Mane or Firmino. I think I wrote an article, a Pro Pundit article, earlier on this week about how we shouldn't neglect the single game weekers in all of this. Now, everyone's talking about getting rid of Rashford, but Manchester United have a lovely fixture at Burnley that week. And I just think that's a big mistake. So I'm looking at my team thinking, I'd like to bring in a Manchester United asset alongside bringing in triple Liverpool. If I bring in Firmino, I can easily bring in Martial, no problem at all. It's a bit more difficult to bring in Mane and then bring in Rashford. I just don't quite have that level of cash. But I'm looking at that Manchester United game thinking that is a game where I could massively profit because a lot of people are going to use these players as their make waves. If I bring one of them in, that could be a massive differential for me at a time where they shouldn't really be a massive differential because at the moment they're very highly owned. So that's kind of my thinking with Liverpool is that you need the three. Mane, Salah, and Trent, I think that is the premium choice. If you money's no object and you want to bring in Choudhury, then they are the way to go. But I do think that Firmino in the last couple of weeks, particularly because it's 2 away games in the double and his form away from home is so good, I'm looking at him thinking, you look like a lovely way for me to keep KDB, keep Salah, keep Vardy, keep everyone that I want to keep, and also have a Manchester United asset going into that game week.
Make the case for the defence though. So we haven't spoken about Robertson, right? We're all talking here about treble attack and Firmino, Mane, Salah. And I think given that West Ham are likely to play their 7th or 8th choice keeper, I think that's probably a good strategy. But 6 clean sheets in a row. Teams are really struggling to score past Liverpool. There's got to be a case for doubling up at the back.
There definitely is. There's definitely a case for going with the double up at the back. I just think that the way that the 3 attacking players are playing right now, you're more likely to be hurt by not having 2 of them than you are by not having the 2 defenders. It feels like with Robbo and with Trent, one of them, they might both get the clean sheet, but it seems to be one of them in one game week and one of them in the next. They don't seem to be doing things in the same game. So I don't see them both kind of getting a 12-point haul against West Ham or, they could, but I think it's more likely that one of them gets attacking returns. They both keep a clean sheet. So I think there's more chance of good returns from the attackers.
Yeah, it's all about ceiling and floors. And if you're going for a double game week and you're looking at triple captaincy options, you're gonna, you've got to go for Mane and Salah. That's definitely going to be the one. And I think for those that are, ultra smooth and maverick guys and gals out there, Firmino would definitely be the one. I think he does have a higher ceiling in away fixtures. But as you mentioned, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the defence. I mean, we've mentioned last 4 matches, 0 goals conceded, 4 clean sheets, best expected goals conceded. Even better than Southampton's defence. I mean, that's pretty good.
And something else I've noticed, Joe, I mean, you're absolutely right to point out all the stats and all the clean sheet stats, but just from watching Liverpool a lot in the last few weeks, and this was particularly true in the Spurs game, I've noticed that, I don't know if it's in teams' heads now, that Liverpool are really hard to score against. And if you're if you get a chance against Liverpool, you better flip and take it, because you ain't going to get many. If you can get past Henderson and Wijnaldum, then you've got one of possibly the world's best defender to get past, and his sidekick Joe Gomez. And if you can get past those guys, then you've got arguably the best keeper in the world to get past as well. I feel like a few teams are getting in and around the danger areas for Liverpool, and they're snatching at chances, or they're overthinking it. I think that's what Lo Celso was doing. I think that's what Son did a couple of times against us at the weekend. I think teams are starting to psych themselves out a little bit against Liverpool. And I think Wolves and West Ham will both find it difficult to score against us. And if you consider the upside of Trent and Robbo, which is well documented, you don't need me to talk about that. We only need to think back to Trent's 24-pointer a few weeks back. Then you could feasibly be looking at a couple of fullbacks that could get you easily 15, 16 points apiece over the double game week. And if you captain one of them, then you're talking about 45, 50 points from 2 players. So it's... I don't think I think you're right. It's the most fun thing to do to pick 2 attackers and a defender, but there's definitely a case for Robertson and Trent for sure.
I think looking at Liverpool's fixtures going forward, I don't want long-term Salah and Mane, except for the fact their fixtures are really great. But I just think I can see myself moving Salah on to Robertson. At some point down the line. Looking at the fixtures that are coming up, so they've obviously got Manchester United coming up, and then they've got Wolves and West Ham during that double that we all know about. Then they've got Southampton at home. Okay, that's good. Norwich away, that's really good as well. Then they've got West Ham at home. It was really good. Then so game week 28, they got Watford away, and that's where I'm starting to think, well, perhaps will Liverpool, as they're nearing their title charge, are they going to be much more tactically, much more, let's go for 1-0. Okay, we've scored 1.
Could be right.
Let's tighten up. And will their reputation amongst other teams be so great now that people can't even score against them anymore? But I think that sort of there-ish, I'll be thinking, is it time for Salah to go to Robertson, and then I can start thinking about other things? Because there is another question that came up, actually. It just came up as I was doing the notes. It was Pep Talks on Twitter asks, with managers desperately trying to squeeze as many expensive Liverpool players into their starting lineup for double game week 24, is there a chance we might overlook some assets? So Sam has already spoken about the single game week assets, but he was saying, are we overlooking City assets? Because let's not forget, they're really good as well. And are we missing out on the likes of Aguero, De Bruyne even, Mahrez, Jesus, David Silva in the weeks following the double. So he's just mentioning there really that there are other options. There is another really great team that is capable of hammering out big 6-0, 6-1 defeats on teams, and so just keep an eye on that. And that's why I go back to my original word, flexibility. I think double game week, I want Mane and Salah and Trent. Afterwards, I'm easy. We'll take it.
What we're going to talk about in Game Week 25, I feel like this is all we talk about is the Liverpool double right now.
Well, we're going to talk about
how we bring back all these players we've taken out over the last year.
Well, then I have the same narrator in the notes, and I just remove Vardy and I say, "Is the Liverpool party over?" And and then it's like, and then it's what sacrifices do we make to get Vardy back in? And so we do.
That's it. That's what we'll be talking about. Vardy returns. Yeah.
Let's move on to Game Week 23 and beyond in a bit more detail. There's a differential to pick. As went for CDB last week, clean sheet return immediately. Simon March was due to pick one, but his broadband packed up, so it's my turn. and so this is where we pick a 5% owned differential for the next 4 game weeks. And this is a player that I've wanted to pick. I haven't been my turn to pick for ages and ages. This is one I've been waiting to pick as long as there were good fixtures to do it. And it's Trossard from Brighton, my team.
Okay. All right.
5.8 million, 0.4% ownership, get those differential stats.
Nice.
Can score as an impact sub, so I'm not too bothered if I don't see him in the starting lineup. But he has been starting recently. 2 goals and 5 assists across his 16 games, and that includes a number of substitute appearances. Eye-test-tastic, I've written here, with Villa, Bournemouth, West Ham and Watford over his next 4. Wow. Of those, they're against, 3 of those are the worst defences in the league. Watford could be tricky. So it's only really the Hornets who are possibly set to keep him at bay. Ladies and gentlemen, Trossard. There's my differential. What do you think?
Well, certainly the fixture's nice. I like him against Villa at home for sure. I genuinely like the way that Potter's setting the Brighton team up this season. I think they're playing some really nice football. I think that you're down there, I think, aren't you? But I don't think you're going to go down. I think you'd be fine. So yeah, I like the fixture. I do worry a little bit about even if he does play, and even if he can provide the bullets, I just wonder if you've got the guys that are going to finish it off. I haven't seen enough of. Well, I do like Morpay. I do think he's a nice player, but certainly last game we didn't see enough of him to think that he's on any sort of run of form. And recently, I think not so sure, to be honest with you.
Gross is playing as well, because then Gross's free kick delivery and general set pieces. So if Trossard is like brought down for being too jinky and wonderful and Belgian, and just completely mesmerises the opponents like he did against Everton. Do you remember when he came on against Everton? And Everton were like, "Whoa, what's this crazy man? He's like Hazard, but smaller." And and he and earned a penalty. And that's the kind of thing he does. Free kicks, penalties. I just think he's going to chip away at points. And so I think 4 game weeks. But yeah, possibly not explosive. But we're talking, under 5% ownership. It's quite rare to get.
Yeah, nice differential. Yeah, nice differential.
Yeah. Always go for that. Sam, any thoughts on that, or just same old?
Yeah, no, I like him. I think it's a great pick. I think the fixtures, as we've all mentioned, they're great, and anybody at the moment seems to be able to score past Villa. Let's see when Reina appears in goal whether that changes. But I think he can certainly score against everybody in that next 3 games at least. The Watford one, as you say, more difficult now. They're looking a lot better defensively, but yeah, I think it's a really nice pick. I can see that going well.
Yeah, and even if Reina's there, I think by all accounts, not that I'm following Italian football that much, but by all accounts, he's been absolute guff for about 2 or 3 years. Reina, way past his prime. So, and if he comes in, it's first game away at Brighton. It's a tough game to just drop him in at. So, all sorts of issues at the back for Villa. So, could come good for you, Joe.
Well, let's hope. Let's move on to some clean sheets. So here we look at the teams with the best chances of clean sheets over the next 6. Lee, who are the best ones there?
So I think, we just mentioned Brighton at home to Villa. I think they've got a pretty good chance of a clean sheet. So have a look at the likes of Dunk, etc., with a little bit of goal threat as well, as we know. Southampton at home to Wolves, I think, is quite nice, given that we've talked before about the upturn in defensive statistics for Southampton and the fact that Wolves seem a little bit hit and miss in front of goal, don't they? They seem a little bit hit and miss. I can see them scoring maybe one in that game, but not many. And Saints, I think, might keep them out. Elsewhere, where else could we go? Arsenal at home to Sheffield United. I mean, Sheffield don't score too many on the road, but then very, very difficult for me to come on the Scoutcast and back an Arsenal clean sheet yet, although their defensive statistics have looked a little bit better in recent days. And then top of the ticker, Liverpool, I guess, at home to Manchester United. I wonder whether the way that Liverpool play and attack at home might suit United on the counter-attack, and Rashford and Martial may get some joy there. But listen, Liverpool 6 clean sheets back-to-back, pretty damn good at home. So I would back us maybe for a clean sheet there as well. So, yeah, it's difficult to pick a few, but I would say certainly Brighton, Southampton, Liverpool look good for them.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that down at the bottom of that table there, in terms of clean sheet prospects, is Watford and Wolves, team we mentioned. So Wolves, because people are starting to look to get rid of them, they've also got Liverpool, Manchester United, and then Tottenham further down the line, Leicester as well. And then Watford, they got Tottenham, but then they got this nice little run, I think, Villa, Everton, Brighton, and then it gets a bit tricky with Manchester United, Liverpool. And that's why I was starting to think, will McCarthy, for $500,000 less or so, be better than Foster? Even though I really like Ben Foster, I just think, is there someone who can get me a little bit more? And that could prevent me from going Choudhury deep as well. So let's see. Let's look ahead to Gameweek 23 and our transfer and captaincy plans. I shall go first because I've sort of revealed most of what I'm thinking anyway. So my bus team, Jimenez has gone for Ings. I don't usually do early transfers, and I don't usually look at money and stuff, but because it really is quite tight at the moment in terms of getting Mane in, so it's a very specific moves I want to do, and I can't afford an up and down. I'm okay with Ali at the moment. His last price drop meant that it was just down to what I bought him for, and I hadn't got a double rise, I don't think, out of him, so there's not too much of a problem. But so yeah, I've gone for Foster against Tottenham, Sionju, Lundstrom and TAA at the back. That's pretty standard. Salah, Ali is still there, but he's on borrowed time and he's facing Foster, so I'm not keen about that. But yeah, he's going to be Mane soon. So De Bruyne is my captain at the moment. I'm looking at Palace against Man City. Well, we talked about it on the captaincy video today, but Palace certainly don't have a history of doing well against Man City. I think people remember the 3-2 where Palace beat City. But I think, what was the tally over the last 4 at the Etihad against Palace? My memory, it was 16 goals to City, 3 to Palace. So that's right. History says that is good. Also, Palace are sort of mid-table when it comes to defence at the moment, and City are just sort of resurgent in terms of their attack. I've got Grealish, borrowed time as well. Vardy, going nowhere. Rashford, going nowhere. And Danny Ings new in for Jimenez. On my bench, Dendoncker deep is McGovern. Dendoncker is not Dendoncker deep this time. He is his first sub. Target and Rico. So it's a new phrase, Rico deep. So that's.
Cannot wait to see. I cannot wait to see.
Your bench is hilarious.
I cannot wait to see Choudhury in there. He's going to be so at home, isn't he? He's going to be really nestled in a really comfy armchair in between them all. So that's me, and I do have a plan which I've already mentioned about Liverpool, but it involves Mane and a whole bunch of other rubbish coming in. So yeah, Sam, what are your plans? Who are you captaining?
So I am going to give the armband to Vardy again this week. This time it's not so much of a shield pick, to be honest. It's more to do with the fact that Burnley are terrible defensively, and I just think Vardy will punish those that have told him to bring in other players. I can see him doing really well this week. I do agree with what you just said about KDB, though. He probably will end up being my vice captain, just in case Vardy has another moment of, absence. But otherwise, I'm likely to take Gaeta out this week. I brought Gaeta in after that nice little run of form that he was on in my original wildcard just before Christmas. And since then, he's been fine. But for the money that he is, I would want him to be better than fine. So I kind of think that Gaeta to McCarthy or Gaeta to Foster, depending upon how much money I want to free up, is likely to be on. I do like the Southampton fixtures more than I like the Watford ones. So, and obviously McCarthy, as we've mentioned already, is cheaper. So I'm probably going to go there. And then that will leave me with 2 free transfers going into game week 24, which is, I think, where ideally you want to be. And then I'll be looking to, depending upon what happens in game week 23, I'll be looking to either bring in Mane in replacement for Dele Alli, or I'll be looking to bring in Firmino, and then probably it'll be Tammy Abraham that will get the boot for him. I am keeping a very, very watchful eye on Lo Celso at Spurs. I feel like...
Why?
Well, he scored in the FA Cup this evening.
Okay.
off to a start now. I think I've seen from him over the last few weeks that, you know, when he plays, he does make a difference in that Spurs team. And with the, you know, expectation that Eriksen is going to be off at some stage, I can see him getting a lot more game time, and is significantly cheaper. So he's 7.3 million. So post game week 24, when I'm looking to kind of reinvest all of this money that I've just invested in Liverpool, I think he could be one of my transfers in at a bit of a later date. So yeah, one transfer, very boring, keeper change, to just free up some money for 24.
Yeah, okay. Right. Now, Sam and Lee, you've very conveniently moved places on the videos, the eagle-eyed people there. So I will notice I've managed to change your names around there, in case people get confused.
Oh, sorry.
How have we managed that?
It's fine. Don't move again. Don't move rooms again. I don't know how you did it. It's like that magic trick where you've got loads of things on a table and then you move the tablecloth off really quickly and it all stays there. So we're going to kind of look at Lee's bus team, and I'm going to do a bit of jiggery-pokery with your name tags. So, Lee, what are your plans and who are you captaining?
Lovely, yeah. So Giovanni Lo Celso, really? To be honest, that's exactly the sort of Sam FPL family nonsense that means he'll bag a hat-trick in the next couple of weeks. That is a classic Sam jammy pick there, Giovanni Lo Celso. I'm not going anywhere near Giovanni Lo Celso. And to be honest, I'm a bit reluctant to give away my plans after you copied my Holgate move last week as well, Sam, which was pretty devastating.
I think if I did it first.
You were not going anywhere near Holgate until
I did it first. Copied me.
So what I'm going to do this week is I'm paving the way for Mane is what I'm doing this week. I mentioned that before on the show that not having him it scares the life out of me for double game week, and I will have him and I will triple captain him for the double game week. So the way I'm going to do that, I've got some money knocking about in the bank already, but I'm going to add a bit of a Saints flavour to my team so that I can get some money to do the upgrade that I need to do. So Gaeta's going to go to McCarthy, no question.
What? No, you've just copied me.
As soon as you said that a minute ago, I thought, oh God, she's going to...
You thought, well, that's a good move.
Unbelievable.
Definitely happening, for all the reasons we mentioned before about the Southampton defence. And then Abraham is going to become Danny Ings. So Danny Ings is going to come in.
You're basically copying my team.
I'm probably about 10 weeks too late on Danny Ings, but if you haven't got him, it's not too late. He needs to come in. Tammy, to be fair, has returned in the last 3 game weeks, so it's a reluctant transfer out, but Newcastle away, followed by some tricky fixtures, that's kind of an excuse to get rid of him for Danny Ings, who is obviously in form and got some nice fixtures. If I do those 2 moves this week, which I will be doing probably in the next 24 hours because of price changes and stuff, that gives me enough money, exactly the right money, to do Kevin De Bruyne to Mane.
Ooh.
Now, I know what you're going to say. I'm going to lose KDB because...
I mean, it's not like he's the best player in the Premier League or anything like that.
No. You're going to want him straight back again.
It's getting to a point in the season where I start looking far less at team value and I start looking more at points. And double game week 24 is exactly that conundrum. Now, I will lose 0.5 team value by taking out Kevin De Bruyne if I indeed want him back afterwards, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to. But the points that you will miss out on, the rank drop that I will take if I don't have Mane at all in my team is going to ruin my season. So De Bruyne is going to go, Mane's going to come in, triple captain, double game week 24. There's a pretty good chance I'm going to bring KDB straight back in afterwards for either Salah or Mane, depending on how I feel about those two. And then I will do what you mentioned before, Joe, about doing Robbo at the back for the nice fixture run that Liverpool have from 25 onwards. That's probably my strategy. So yeah, it's Kevin De Bruyne is going to be the sacrificial lamb. It was going to be Rashford, but Rashford at home to Burnley in 24 is something that I don't want to miss out on. And I feel like City going to Bramall Lane is a tough fixture. It's a tough fixture. We know what Sheffield United are all about.
Can you? I mean, have you got enough money? Could you up? Who'd you get for Mane? Maddison, and can you move Maddison and someone else out? I mean, it just seems.
No, I want to keep Maddison. I think Leicester have got a couple of nice fixtures coming up, so he's got to stay. And I know what you're going to say. Last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, he's had one really good week and then a lot of ones and twos. But I think, they've come up against a very good Southampton side. Vardy's been missing for a couple of games, so they've had a bit of a, Rodgers has used the squad, to say the least, over the last few weeks. So I expect Rodgers will go back to full strength. I think we'll see the best of Maddison again. And he's a differential for me against Sam, so I've got to keep him.
Why you copy the rest of my team?
Well, I guess. I'm going to try and, before we go, I've got to, at least, try and put some credibility.
I'm not going Choudhury, Joe.
I know you're not going to go Choudhury deep, but getting rid of KDB. Okay, so those fixtures, game week 24, looking at the fixtures, Man City have Sheffield United away. We know they are capable of being a tricky customer. And then they have Tottenham away. So 2 away games, 2 hard to call away games in terms of will Man City unleash a drubbing there or not. And then they've got West Ham at home, and that's game week 26 is when I would definitely, if I was getting rid of KDB,
that's when you want him back. Yes,
that's when I want him back. For me, if I had a choice, if I wasn't going Choudhury deep, I was going De Bruyne high, then I would probably prefer to get rid of Vardy over De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne is that good in terms of overall points. Being a midfielder, just simply FPL points, in terms of the bonus returns, in terms of the assist potential and the goal scoring potential. I just think he could get more points over that time. And Vardy, I think, especially if I had Maddison as well, I would. I mean, it's not really coverage because they do different roles with the team. It's not necessarily they assist or score for each other necessarily, but I think if I had Maddison and Vardy, one of them would definitely, Vardy would be my cash cow there. But and Grealish.
The other strategy that I'm considering, if I really bottle it on the KDB thing, is that I would still do the McCarthy and Ings moves, and I'd still have the right amount of money then to do Soyuncu to Robertson. So that is possible as well if I bottle the KDB thing, but I just cannot. I don't think you can go into game week 24 with the effective ownership that Mane's going to have, and I will literally be sitting there for the first time ever in my life wishing a Liverpool player not to score a goal because I just won't want Mane. I think that's also
it just sums up what this is. What it's a game. I just kept saying last week, it's a game, and it's I want to be able to go into that game week. It's a double game week. We've all had like a decade of double game weeks, and what thrill is it to have the best players to triple captain and whatever, and you go in with them. And I don't want to go. It's like walking down the street naked, going into a double game without the best player as a triple captain or a captain, and there's just no way. So I completely agree with you. I do think KDB for me, that's a bridge too far. But you never know. Good luck with it anyway. Getting rid of the best player. Fair enough.
I think everyone in the live chat's going, "What are you doing? You idiot.
What are you on? What are you smoking in that different room
Lane is
in
a
your
fortress,
house?"
People, come on.
And on that bombshell, it's just want to remind people about the membership they can get from Fantasy Football Scout. A lot of the stats and of course the season ticker and stuff has all come from the members area. You can get season long, half season, monthly options there. Just go on fantasyfootballscout.co.uk and you can find out more there. But for now, it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye all.